Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher, on a beautiful day here in Old New Orleans. Again, can I call it a Chamber of Commerce day once again? Absolutely beautiful temperatures, again, as we get into the fall here in New Orleans. And of course, we're live from our Pot Spring Production Studios. We got a great show in store for you. One of the best we have in the entire state. Jordy Culotta, the Jordy Culotta Show, is our guest. And of course, we'll cover Saints, LSU, Tulane, and Pelicans. We got a lot to get to. So let's roll into it. Jordy, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming down from Baton Rouge as you do for us. We appreciate that very much. And folks, if you have not checked out Jordy's show, you're missing, again, one of the best shows we have in all the state. It's on YouTube. He's going to tell you all about it. Great guest, insightful, again, conversation, knowledgeable, fun, entertaining, everything you want in a radio show on TV. He's got it for you. Tell us all about it.
Appreciate it, E. Good to be back. Thank you for having me. Yeah, we're going digital. You know, you and I have talked a lot about this, but we're on YouTube daily, 7 to 9 a.m., and we bring in guests. This morning we talked to Archie Manning and got a preview of the LSU Ole Miss game coming up this weekend. Talked a ton about the NBA last night, but we're there all over social media. Easiest place to find us is at Culotta Show. Any platform, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, we're all over the digital spaces and really see that it's evolving. You and I have talked about it a ton.
It really is. And again, it's the future of our business, and he's on the forefront of it. And I would encourage anybody that wants some really good sports talk with look, a little bit of fun, but also, again, giving you great information. Tune in each and every day. And look, if you can't get them 7 to 9, it's on YouTube. You can pick it up anytime you want. That's the beautiful thing about his program. Before we get into the Saints, we'll start with Saints as we normally do. Yeah. Look, I had the privilege when I first started in this business as an intern back at WNOE back in 1982, working with Mary Foster, the great Mary Foster, the first female sports talk show host in the South, one of the first in the country. And we did the Archie Manning show each and every week. And of course, as an intern does, go down to the elevator, meet him, come up, and have conversations with him, and kind of make him at ease. And he was my idol coming up, right? What was that like this morning, hearing him talk about LSU Ole Miss days? Because again, that is part of, again, my childhood, watching him play against LSU.
Yeah, and look, for me growing up, I heard third hand who Archie Manning was able to watch some highlights of him, through younger days, but didn't really understand the type of player he was until the YouTube generation where you could go back and watch this stuff. But obviously listening to him on the radio growing up was kind of my relationship with him. And even there, you could feel his presence. You could feel how much he demanded respect, how much respect he got. And that he was a great storyteller. First and foremost, I think that I was attracted to this business very young because of the storytelling element of what we can provide, what we do. And Archie, who is, has great stories and so many experiences, I think to be able to dig into those and bring those to life is something that's really cool. And this morning he did that. He brought us back to, his freshman days at Ole Miss playing LSU. And some of the characters that he was going up against, like Mike Anderson and George Bevan and those guys. So it was also cool to hear about his point of view of watching Arch play, his grandson. Yes. And kind of how recruiting in the quarterback position has evolved. We asked him about the Manning Passing Academy and its 27th year. And this past summer, Stetson Bennett, Hendon Hooker, Bryce Young. Yes. All of these guys, Jaden Daniels, that are kind of at the forefront of college football right now. We're counselors down there, so it was great. It was kind of a kind of kneel at the altar and listen to the first family and the first the first man of college football speak. So it's always cool to catch up with a legend.
As a kid, 1970 nationally televised game. Matter of fact, it was funny because I watched that game and was going to a Tulane game that night in Tulane Stadium. But Archie with a broken arm, playing against LSU, and LSU just beat him to death in that game.
He told about how in '68. The freshman team played a really good game against him in '69. That they actually beat LSU on a night that they probably shouldn't have. LSU had a better team, and then he said that his junior year they really kind of gave it back to him.
70.
And with the broken arm and really beat him up.
Right, and of course for all of us that grew up during that time, when the NFL draft came along, third pick came to the Saints, and of course it was Archie Manning. Could have been more of a storybook, and what he did for not just the franchise, but again for the city, and choosing to be able to live here as well. Again, you talk about first family of football, first family of New Orleans football as well.
For sure, absolutely. You can feel New Orleans when you speak to him. I mean, he is almost a part of the landscape now.
And could have went back to Mississippi.
Yeah, easily.
But chose not to.
Easily.
But chose not to, no doubt. All right, let's talk about the Saints. Not what we expected when you look at this team right now. Look, Jeff Duncan had a stat, which again, I'm not an excuse maker. You're not an excuse maker. We don't do that. But 34 different starters, 63 different players this season. It's the second highest in the league. To Tennessee is 64. The Cincinnati has used 26. Kansas City has used 27. But the Saints have used a different starting lineup in every single game. They are injured, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You can give them a little bit of pass because of that. To me, the problem is defensively, they are not playing up to where they should be. Yes, they got problems in the secondary with injuries. There's no doubt about that. Some of this self-inflicted wounds by not re-signing Quan, by again, trading C.J. Gardner-Johnson for a piece of stale French bread. But this is a team that lacks the juice, lacks the enthusiasm, and is not getting it done up front with the defensive line. Look, the linebackers have been fine with Werner and Demario Davis. But again, it really starts up front, and then on the back end, not being able to cover man-to-man like they have. This is not the defense that was advertised.
Well, Marshawn Lattimore being out last week really was a glaring hole of just how behind they are in that part of the roster. You mentioned it. They don't have that pop. They don't have that juice. They don't have that guy that come in and can make that big play and get everybody rallying around him. Right. That guy was C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
No doubt.
Really, and Quan Alexander, for that matter, was really kind of a guy that gave him some heartbeat as far as just being someone that they emotionally would rally around.
True.
For the first time over the last couple of weeks, I've said out loud and watching them in my living, they look old. They feel old. They feel like they're a step and a half behind their competition. And one of the stats that Jeff Duncan also pointed out earlier this year that I think is glaring as well is their inability to protect the football and the penalties. They're very undisciplined. And they don't have a lot of ball security, and that's just in this league. your margin of error is just way too fine to be struggling in both of those categories. One, you may be able to overcome.
True.
Both, it's tough to get to a positive point.
And especially when you stayed with continuity.
Yeah.
Where this is not, I said this the other day on the radio show, this is not a team of rookies. This is not a rebuilding team. This is a team, again, that's been together for a long time. You shouldn't be seeing the type of mistakes you're seeing. Now, I get it. You're having to go a little deeper into the depth chart. Maybe, again, that's where you're getting some of the mistakes. But for the most part, a lot of your stars are making the mistakes that have held this team back. And also, again, the coaching. I've said this week, Carmichael, after watching Carmichael the first 6 weeks of the season, gutless and unimaginative. I mean, again, we know now why Peyton took the play calling duties away from him. You have to have guts in the red zone. You have to be imaginative. Only using Taysom Hill 9 times last week, and 4 of those were throwing the football. He ran the ball 5 times last week after what you got the week before. And then, of course, everybody thought it was because he was the backup quarterback. No, Carmichael came out this week and said, no, it was just, again, my mistake. I didn't go back to him. That's unacceptable, okay, especially when you're in a tight game like you were against Cincinnati. The offense has had its troubles. A lot of that, again, has to do with injury. Defensively, they just have not played well.
Yeah, defensively, they just hadn't made plays.
Right.
They've been and had opportunities, and like I said, they've looked a step slow. They've looked a step and a half behind in some areas, and, I don't know how you change that.
Right.
Even in the NFL, we talk about it in college football. You can't go to the waiver wire. You can't go make a trade. You can't get to free agent. The moves that they've made have almost put them in this position, where you feel like you would have wanted to get younger and quicker and more aggressive, and it felt like they had that. And I know that the Gardner Johnson situation was on the horizon with the contract and what he wanted, but I thought that you could have gotten through this year with him.
You absolutely could have.
And look, the attitude part, and I hate to go back and play what if, but Saints have always been great at that. They've always been great at managing in-house issues.
Peyton loved it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was the best at it.
He really was. Yeah, it was.
He embraced that type of situation.
Absolutely. And, to see Gardner Johnson just shipped off as soon as he, became a little bit of a malcontent, I think shows you that it's different. For as much as they want to keep it and try to keep the continuity and keep everything in place, it's still those little things day in, day out that you can't replace.
Well, that's the difference between having a football guy in charge and a guy that, again, is in charge that is a cap guy.
Yeah.
And, a football guy looks at Gardner Johnson and sees the intangibles. Yeah. A football guy looks at Quan Alexander and sees the intangibles and sees a guy sign up for $152,000 guaranteed with the Jets. Sees Gardner Johnson under a rookie contract for 1 more year. Right. And they say, we live with it. We bring those guys back because if you're going to do true continuity, you don't want to lose the guys that are the emotional leaders of your team. And I know they felt that Demario Davis could be that guy, but again, now it's proven out that those guys have meant something. And now, especially since day one, it seemed like from the time that they traded Gardner Johnson to Philadelphia, that the secondary has been beset by injuries. And that's a guy that could have filled some of the holes. Look, when you're going to Chris Harris, who again was sitting on the street, when you're going to Evans, who again wasn't playing football for the last 2 years, and those are your guys that you're playing safety with right now. Look, those guys got Burrow ate them up last week. I mean, literally completed every pass he attempted to them. And JT Gray is a special teams player. These are the guys you're ending up with in your secondary right now.
Yeah, and it's very early in the season. That's the most discouraging part. You would think that they would be in a position to have some guys out there, but. Look, I'm with you. I think the Gardner Johnson situation is going to haunt this team.
Yep.
It's going to haunt them week in, week out. It was a bad move, and it's something that it's another great indicator and example in this league how fine the line is of winning.
I think it's a great point.
We talked about margin of error and how close it is to be win-loss in this league. One player. Like that, cover up a couple of spots. His versatility is missed as well.
Yes, no doubt. Also, look, I love Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah.
We all love Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu is not a guy that is going to be your last line of defense tackler, okay? And they have put him in that position too many times. Yeah. He's going to fail, okay? Chase went right through him last week. We saw a couple weeks ago, same issue. He's a guy that should be put in a position to be kind of a rover, allow him to be able to roam, to be able to be a playmaker, and they have. I saw a couple of sets. They did that last week against Cincinnati, but you can't put him in a position to do something at this point in his career that he just cannot do. He's not the last line of defense tackler at safety.
No, look, he went head-to-head with Leonard Fournette a couple of weeks ago. You know, you mentioned the Jamar Chase situation. He's not going to make that play. He's not supposed to make that play. And where he has served best is around the line of scrimmage, getting in the backfield, and making plays.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that's where he needs to be, and I'm with you. I've been discouraged to see the way that Dennis Allen, a defensive mind,
he's using it.
Is the way that he's creatively, or really kind of uncreatively throwing him out there.
Now, what's the misnomer here is, look, the guy has 20 solo tackles, 9 assists. So again, it's not like he's the third leading tackler on the team, but you got to put him in a position where he can excel, and that's been the discouraging thing on both sides of the ball, the creativity. You know, again, we saw Dennis Allen. One of the great things about Dennis Allen was the creativity on defense. You know, again, matching what the offense was doing, or in a lot of cases, you know, having a game plan that put the offense off. In this case, on the offensive side, we see Carmichael, as I mentioned, unimaginative at times. You cannot go to the red zone and play as bad as they did last week. Now, I understand it's 1 week, but still, play as bad as they did last week and end up losing that game 30-26 when you had the lead all the way up to the last 3 minutes.
It's a brutal way to lose.
It really is.
It's a brutal way to lose the game. I mean, I was in the dome, but in that fourth field goal, I looked at the guy next to me. I said, they're about to make Burrow #1 on SportsCenter top 10.
Right.
I mean, they're just handing this thing to him, man. I mean, they cannot trade field goals for touchdowns. I mean, it's like playing Golden State and shooting layups all night.
Amen.
You know, I mean, you just can't do it. You got to be able to hit the outside shot.
Right. Offensively, it's going to be interesting again what happens. Look, this is to me, tonight is one they have to have. Look, Arizona's not a good team. But yet they've had problems with mobile quarterbacks. And Murray is going to cause them a problem, especially the way they've been playing along their defensive line, where look, they've got little or no pressure. I understand the last 2 quarterbacks they've played have gotten the ball out in about 2.9 seconds, but then you have to create pressure. The only time they got a sacks last week were DeMario Davis on blitzes. You got to create pressure. DeAndre Hopkins is back. They bring in Anderson from Carolina. Look, Hopkins hasn't been hit yet, okay? So we've seen, again, a lot of football early, bad football from guys that just have not been hit. So we'll see, again, how that plays out. You can't let them get behind you. But this is one, to me, and I'd love to get your take on it, that I think they have to have because they want to heal up coming out of this mini bye and hope they can make a little bit of a run.
Yeah, you get 10 days here, after tomorrow, after tonight. And look, I'm with you. All Thursday night football has been ugly. I mean, it doesn't matter who they've put out there. Amazon was sold, just kind of like almost a little bit of here you go. Let me give us $1 billion. Here's a schedule that you can chew on. But all of it's been bad. So if you can steal one tonight, that would be ideal, just to kind of get you some life back and get you back in the race and get you into this window here where you can get healthy. I truly believe that this is a must get, just from the stability standpoint.
Yes.
I mean, like, you need to stabilize the program and make sure that everybody's kind of bought in and get everybody with some good and positive vibes around them. And I'm with you on Murray, but I think that this is the type of game where Tyrann Mathieu can make those types of plays for you.
Yeah.
Where he has shined. So it's a big spot for him. I know that he's going back to the spot that drafted him. So hopefully tonight you can get some type of emotional force from him that they can put him over the top.
The final injury list: Thomas will not play, Landry will not play, Pete will not play, Troutman will not play, Marshawn Lattimore will not play. So again, those guys are out. Ingram, Adebo, Kirkwood, May, Ramczyk, Throckmorton, Turner, Winston, Dalton, all should be up for tonight. We expect Andy Dalton to be the quarterback tonight.
Yes, I agree. And I think that when you talk about the window of getting guys healthy, I think that #1 on that list is probably Jameis Winston.
Yes.
To get him to this window where get him extended more time, days off, get him healthy, and rather than rush him back on a game that feels like you can go in there, limping in and try to steal. I think that it's ideal probably to play Dalton again tonight. And look, Dalton, I think he hasn't
played bad.
Nah, you can win.
Right.
You can win with him.
I mean, honestly, And look, Jordy, I've said this on the radio show. I don't want to see Jameis again until he's healthy. Because what I saw early was a guy that reverted back to Tampa Bay Jameis. And he wasn't the guy we saw in the first 7 games of the season. He's already got 8 turnovers, okay? And look, to me, you look at that Carolina game, you look at that Tampa game, he shouldn't have been in those games. You know, playing with a broken back, and that's 2 you can't get back. But with that said, things are so close. 2-4. 11 of 16 teams in the NFC have 3 or 4 losses. Tampa and Atlanta at the top of the South right now at 3-3. Saints are at 2-4. Carolina at 1-5. You are not out. As bad as this team has played, as injured as this team has been, they're not out of it.
Still very early in the season. Still got an opportunity to catch some momentum and get moving. You know, I mean, from a standings standpoint, I think that when you look at the NFL, you know, I mean, these things now with the extra week of play, that's what they wanted to do. They want to keep this thing as open as long as possible, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of find your footing. And the Saints feel like they're there, you know, but they need some things to happen for them defensively that would convince me that they can make a run in the playoffs. Offensively, I think they can win. Right?
When healthy.
Absolutely. When healthy, I think you can win. Defensively, they've got to get some playmakers up front, you know, to start really helping them out. And you get Lattimore back. Once he gets back in there, I think you're a totally different unit on the back end. No doubt. And that could propel you into a postseason push. Right.
They've got to be better on the defensive line. Yeah. You know, they've got nothing out of Turner. He's, again, gave up 2 first-round picks for him. Davenport, once again, is a ghost. Okay, two first-round picks for him. The troubling thing is the interior of the defensive line with Onyemata and Tuttle. Roach comes back last week. He made a little bit of a difference. Street, who came in from San Francisco, they have done nothing. You know, it's been the Cam Jordan show, and at this point, he can't do it all himself. Right. Okay, and he definitely can't do it if a guy's getting the ball out in 2.9 seconds. Now, that's not Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's going to be running all over the field tonight. The question is, again, what does Dennis Allen have in terms of a game plan to be able to corral him, keep him, again, in behind the line of scrimmage, and still be able to cover without guys like Lattimore?
Yeah. No, that's the challenge tonight. Right. And I mean, Kyler Murray has shown it. He can keep plays alive for 30 seconds. Yeah, tackling is a premium.
Yes, which is something they haven't done well.
And done well there. So, you know, I mean, Thursday Night Football's been ugly. It's a tough spot. Yeah, it's a spot where Saints got to answer some questions here and get right.
And I keep hearing about Alontae Taylor. Look, I think the kid's got a lot of upside. But you're asking a kid to come off of IR as a rookie and make a difference here. We'll see again how that plays out. But we'll see again how ultimately what happens. Dennis Allen is a guy now that is getting a little bit of heat, and rightly so. And we have Chris who's asking a question via YouTube. Should the Saints have hired a head coach from someplace else rather than going in-house continuity? Look, I think we all bought into continuity, and it sounded good, but we also knew that there was a possibility that it could fall flat on its face, because I think a lot of people underestimated what Peyton meant to this team in terms of intensity, how he ruled that particular compound, how everything kind of flowed off of him.
Look, I would love to keep the Sean Payton way in place.
Yes.
It's almost impossible to do without Sean Payton, just because of how much power and reach that he oversaw in that program. And you can even see how he talks to them on set when he's interviewing them. I mean, that interview with Mark Ingram was very telling in the way that, I mean, he was telling him, like, protect the ball. Right. Like, protect the effing ball.
Like I'm still coaching.
And Ingram got to, like, feel it. Right. You know, he was kind of like, oh, here we go. Right. You know, so, I mean, you can't underestimate how much power the guy had. You can't underestimate the attention to detail that he put into place.
His motivational tactics.
Just every piece of it. And for as close as Allen was, and he was probably the closest of any assistant over the last 5 years, it's still literally impossible to do without the leader. You know, I mean, you can have the vice president, you can have
substitute
the assistant, you can have everybody who's close, but it's not them. Yeah. And that was one thing that I thought that the veteran roster was more of the move of keeping Allen in, just because, look, they kind of rule it. You know, they run.
Right.
They run the locker room.
Professional football, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's Dennis Allen isn't going to come in there and slam his fist down and say, "Hey guys, this is how we're going to do it."
Right.
You know, he said, "Look, I mean,
He's got to get a buy-in from the captains or get a buy-in from the team.
Make sure they sign off on it.
Right.
Everybody's good with it. If everybody's cool with it, let's move forward." But you know, I mean, when you look at it this way, it feels like it might be creeping towards the time of just blow it up. Let's start from scratch. Go find the young guy. Go find the guy that can kind of move you into the future. I mean everybody's looking at one point for Sean Payton, right? Well, I mean, isn't Sean McVay kind of the younger edition of Payton? So, I mean, get back into the sweepstakes, right?
Well, Jordy, I'll say this, and I've been saying this for a while now. All those that, again, can't wait for Sean Payton to jump on another team so they can get draft picks, right? Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Because he is going to raid this organization. He's going to take the best and brightest for this organization, from the front office to the coaching staff to the players. Because, again, he's going to want guys that have the Peyton way, that have played under him, that can communicate what he wants to communicate to a new team. So the second he gets on whatever team he's going to end up taking over, he's coming in and he's raiding, again, this organization. So then that asks the question, you know, can you trust Mickey Loomis to be able to go to find lightning in a bottle a second time like he did with Sean Payton? And, you know, based on what we saw in some of the moves that we've seen with Quan Alexander, with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, going back to, again, the Haslett years when he was in charge, you know, I don't have any confidence in it myself. Well, we'll see how it plays out. And then, are they, to a fault, going to stay with Allen if ultimately this fails this year, just out of stubbornness to say, okay, we're going to give him one more shot, when in essence, again, you pretty much know what you have by the end of the season, whether this guy can do it at a high level or not. He's had a shot in Oakland. Up to this point, it's been Oakland 2.0.
Yeah, no, it really has. And there's been situations where you wonder, is he prepared for that?
Is he a defensive coordinator? Some guys just are not head coaches.
And that's okay.
Right, it is.
It's fine. I'm curious how many people are making this decision, how many people are consulting, how many people are overseeing this, because I'm with you. You know, I don't have the utmost confidence in Mickey Loomis to be able to recognize, pull the trigger, and make it happen, whatever way it goes. Right? Whichever way it needs to go. But I wonder how many people that he's leaning on that could possibly help him make that choice, because, you know, I think that you can't just undervalue how much Peyton ran the football department.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, Loomis's his responsibility was so fine and so measured.
Contracts.
Absolutely, and he was great at it.
One of the best.
But now when you're expanding that role into more football operations, it's shown how you got to have the dude. You got to have that guy. You got to have that one that you can lean on and say, what should we do right here? You know, how should we handle this? And him say, don't worry about it, I got it.
And you just mentioned the confidence of the organization, the team, to know that guy's going to get it right.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's what he did.
And look, it's a difficult position to find, right?
No doubt.
With the Saints, 40 years, 50 years until they found the guy. I mean, you know, I mean, it's difficult to hit, but I think football allows you to find those guys a lot more. You can identify those guys a lot more clear than you can. Even back when Peyton was brought in 06. I still can't believe that Green Bay passed him over for McCarthy.
No,
I mean, it was some Katrina magic.
Yes, it really was.
In that.
No doubt about it. All right, hopefully, again, the Saints could pull it out tonight and get that 10-day mini bye and get some guys healthy and turn it around. Again, I picked them to win the NFC South. I thought that they would be a team that could challenge for the NFC. They're not the team that we thought they were coming out of training camp. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Jordy Culotta. Jordy Culotta Show is our guest. We switch to the LSU Tigers. We'll go to the Tulane Green Wave, and we'll cover the New Orleans Pelicans. But again, just beating up on Brooklyn last night in their season opener. All that coming up here on Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll hear from our underwriters. We'll be right back.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Experiencing rough weather with a bad roof can be a nightmare. It doesn't have to be.
Suburban Roofing, because when it comes to roofing, there is a difference.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Jordy Culotta, the Jordy Culotta Show, is with us again each and every weekday, 7 to 9 on YouTube. Catch him on all the social media platforms at Culotta Show. Believe me, it is worth your time to check it out each and every day. Jordy, LSU now 5-2, 3-1 in the SEC, with a tie for second place with Alabama. 45-35 winners over Florida. And what was the coming out the game for Jaden Daniels. You know, I watched the Tennessee game, and I saw the 300 yards. And I really, and I said this all week long on the radio show and even last week on this program, I thought it was more of a byproduct of how Tennessee was playing LSU because they had the big lead. Yeah. But what I saw from him this past weekend looked like an SEC quarterback.
He needed that. He had to have that because he had been playing so nervous up to that point.
Okay.
Maybe that might be the wrong term, but just so apprehensive of what he was looking at, not sure on whether or not to play the risk-reward game of putting the ball out there. LSU's best position group on the team is the wide receivers. And for LSU to be successful on offense, those guys have to touch it. Mm-hmm. And whether it's down the field or around the line of scrimmage or in jet sweep or however it is, you just got to get them involved. And I thought last week they did a great job of involving those guys very early on. It's the best we've seen Kayshawn look here in his junior season. Mm-hmm. You know, Brian Thomas is a big-time playmaker. If he's your third or fourth option, that's a problem for defenses. And, you know, I think that was really a byproduct of Jaden Daniels. One of the things I thought that was a simple fix or a simple just kind of tweak to the offense that really opened him up was allowing the running back now to get out into the flat for a check down, to chip, help protect. If the first, second option wasn't there, rather than running it, which everybody has scouted and now knows that's what he wants to do. Right. You know, get the ball out of your hand and put it into one of these guys' hand like Emory, which we saw in the long pickup in the run there. That just kind of has taken the pressure off of him. It's opened him up. It's giving him the opportunity to see things from a different angle out there, which I think means, you know, a lot. Because we were asking Jaden Daniels, or we were as the fan base, but I think even inside of those walls with the coaching staff, asking him to totally change his personality, totally change who he was. He was a guy that, look, he wasn't comfortable throwing the ball first. He was much more athletic, and when he saw things break down, he said, rather than turn the ball over, he was going to protect it and get you positive yards. Well, I get that style of play, but you've never played alongside guys that, you know, you got multiple first-round picks that are standing alongside you. It's now time to just trust your talent and put the ball in the air. And he did that last week, and I think that's something that he can grow on. And if that's who LSU is, you know, I mean, I'm not the data is there. That's the one that's outlined. That one. But if he does it 2 weeks in a row, now LSU is on to something. And there's nobody left on the schedule that strikes fear in my eyes, if I'm LSU, if your offense can play like that. I mean, I think they can play with. I think every game on the schedule is a 4-quarter game if they play like they did Saturday night on offense.
Went through his progressions. Again, he threw the ball fairly accurately. We know he's a threat to run. Okay, but as you mentioned, was patient. Delivered the ball with anticipation, which is something, again, late. If you watch him from day one, he likes to hold the ball and then throw it again after the break. It was a total different guy on Saturday. And again, look, 3 touchdowns through the air, 3 running. You saw him on the 2 touchdowns to the pylon. Once he gets ahead of steam, there's nobody going to catch him.
He's a running back.
Right. Nobody going to catch him.
Yeah.
Okay. But again, his patience in the pocket also, again, his little maneuverability. And let's give the credit to the offensive line. They played very, very well against Florida. But he was the guy that really stuck out, and I think the reason why they were able to beat Florida, the reason why I feel really good about them against Ole Miss this week.
I agree, and look, it's continued development and improvement. What we've talked about from Brian Kelly and his coaching staff, a guy like Daniels is a clear example of how they have gotten him to really improve and take that next step.
Yes.
And I think that you will see his confidence just hopefully explode from that type of moment. That's as we can all hopefully we can all kind of relate to in the competitive part of us.
Sure.
When that happens to you and the light goes on, that's just about as good a feeling as you can have in competition. Of look, I feel 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Put me anywhere against anybody and let's play at any time and let's just see what happens. And I kind of feel like that about LSU right now. Not to necessarily say, look, they're going to get to the Final Four and win the college football playoff. I'm just saying that LSU's a scary game plan if they look like they did on Saturday. I probably believe that Lane Kiffin, next week they'll have a week off and then they'll play Alabama, Arkansas. They probably thought by this time of the year LSU might be a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
They might just kind of like, hey, get to the off season, let's figure it out. Now they're sitting in a spot where they control their own destiny in the West.
True.
You win on Saturday, which I believe they can.
Me too.
And will.
And me too.
You're sitting in the driver's seat going into or with Alabama coming into town, and kind of the West on the line, which is wild.
Yeah. Ole Miss. I went back, looked, did the research this week. They didn't play. They haven't played anybody. You look at the beat of their schedule; it's coming up. They played Kentucky. Okay. They played Auburn. Other than that, Georgia Tech.
Will Levis gave him hell from Kentucky. You know what I mean? Like he really, and in the second half he kind of melted and gave the ball away a little bit, and they had opportunities. Kentucky had chances. Auburn is what I meant, gave him hell.
Yeah.
No doubt. Levis gave him the ball.
Yes.
Auburn gave him hell in the sense of that was pretty curious to see Robbie Ashford, really apply some trouble to Ole Miss's defense. It's a different Lane Kiffin attack, and that's what I love about Kiffin is that you can give him whatever type of talent and he'll adjust.
Yes.
You always thought that he was kind of the high-flying, creative, pass the ball in the air. He's got the #1 rush offense in the country right now coming in on Saturday, and he's done it very creatively. He's doing this kind of outside zone, inside zone running attack, a lot like the Denver Broncos ran with Terrell Davis and Elway in the late 90s. If you see some of the holes that Zach Evans, the running back, the TCU transfer, is running through over at Ole Miss. He's wide open in spaces. So the rush defense for LSU is really going to be tested on Saturday. I think that the matchup of the game will be Kiffin on House.
Right.
Really Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr., the offensive coordinator for Ole Miss, kind of going up against Matt House and that defense.
Right.
What's the cat and mouse going to be? I think that Ole Miss probably wants to keep the ball away from Jaden Daniels.
Yes.
You don't want to really home run hit on them. You want to just kind of eat clock, possess the ball, keep it out of their hands, because one thing's for sure is that Ole Miss cannot guard LSU.
Yeah.
Everybody has given them trouble in that part of the game, and I think that, like we said, Brian Thomas being your third or fourth option on offense, you're asking the third or fourth corner guy to cover him. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Jordy, I was talking last week about if ultimately you couldn't have Jaden Daniels throwing the ball effectively, they may have to go to Nussmeier.
Yeah.
Okay? I was talking last week about, again, there's not a true bona fide SEC back on this team. Josh Williams goes off for 100 yards. So, again, they're playing well on offense. I think you guys are defensively is where the rubber hits the road. House has done a great job most of the schedule. Obviously, Tennessee's got to be an outlier.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to see what he's got in store for Ole Miss this weekend.
I agree. You know, I love how he game planned Mike Leach in Mississippi State. I thought he was ready for Robbie Ashford and Auburn. I thought he had a really good plan against Florida. Like you mentioned, the Tennessee game, there was some outlying stuff there, short fields, turnovers that really kind of put his back up against the wall. But I think that, you know, that's going to be the game within the game, is going to be Kiffin and Weiss versus House on how they kind of go and attack, because while LSU's rushing defense is not anything that you look at and you say, wow, they're going to be able to handle this challenge, they also haven't been tested the way that they will on Saturday. I'm not trying to make any excuses by any means, but I think you'll find out Saturday whether they can stop the run or not.
National television, CBS, 2:30. It's homecoming for LSU, so again, a lot of alumni will be there. It'll be a packed house, and ought to have a lot, again, even though it's a 2:30 game, ought to be a lot of energy in Tiger Stadium.
I think the juice will be there. I really do. I think that LSU has kind of found themselves back at a point now where they're hungry. You know, they're the hunter again. It's for the first time, you know, in a long time, LSU is, you know, they got the gun. You know, I mean, they're the ones that are out hunting rather than being the hunted. So that has kind of permeated throughout the fan base, and it didn't matter. You know, a couple weeks ago against Tennessee, it was a great environment to start the game. The football just didn't allow you to get into it. 2:30 come Saturday. I think. Look outside. It's beautiful. I mean, it's gonna be a beautiful day. It's made for football. I think that it'll be a packed house, and I think you'll get 4 quarters of good football from it.
Well, again, hopefully, they've learned something from the Tennessee game. Understanding again, you got to take care of the football. Special teams has got to get better. I mean, that's been really kind of the Achilles heel there. It was good to see them knock down a field goal when they needed it. Maybe there's some confidence there going forward. Look, call it a feeling, call it gut, call it maybe the homer. I think they beat Ole Miss this weekend.
It's a crazy line, E. It started off on Sunday where Ole Miss was giving points to LSU. Now here, about 48 hours before kickoff, LSU is sitting as a 2.5-point favorite. You know, I think even the Sharks, even the wise guys in Vegas have looked at LSU in a different light. On Sunday, they were thinking this might be the same old LSU we've been looking at, but the more they look at, I guess, the film, or the more they thought about these wide receivers being a part of the game plan, the more this thing has started to sway. So, you know, I'm with you. I think that LSU can win this game. I think that they will have the home field advantage on their side. I think that it will be a true home field advantage. I think Ole Miss will travel well. It'll be a great SEC environment.
I agree.
But LSU's got to be playing with a lot of confidence, man, and not this false confidence. They got dudes. They got guys that can change the game and change the scoreboard immediately. And if you can get the ball in their hands, LSU's a dangerous opponent.
Now, Ole Miss has a really good defensive line. Again, they sacked the quarterback, so again, the escapability of Daniels mean a lot, but this offensive line seems to have gelled. I mean, even with the he has just been incredible.
Goodness. I mean, just inserting him back into the lineup last week. He's the SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week. But him and Emory Jones, you know, Coach Kelly was talking about it earlier this week, just how crazy it is.
Bookend freshman.
True freshman.
Come on.
You know, I mean, as your bookends is just wild, and them playing at the level that they are. The Athletic just put out their midseason All-American report. Campbell was a unanimous selection for it. Harold Perkins was on it. Emory Jones was on the honorable mention. I'd imagine by the end of the season he'll have enough data to be on that first team, because they are both nasty.
Yes.
You know, like they are both NFL caliber. Just the mentality. Just the mentality of that speed, the strength, that position that they're blocking every Saturday is so impressive. Their pro scouting report's already got to be 2 or 3 pages long.
No doubt. LSU just sitting outside the top 25. If they win this week, they'll be in the top 25. Tulane is in the top 25 for the first time since 1998. They are 6-1. They are 3-0, undefeated in first place in the American Athletic Conference. They have been playing incredible football after dropping a one they should not have to Southern Miss. They beat USF 45-31 on Saturday. Now, I'll say this: Bohannon, the transfer from Baylor, was absolutely outstanding until he got injured, and Tulane was on their heels until until he got injured. But after that, they were outstanding. The defense swarming, smothering, suffocating type defense. There's sure tackling. There's talent on all three levels. Spears is Spears might be the best back in Louisiana. Again, when he 11 carries, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns last week, a 75-yard run. Michael Pratt is the quarterback. He's a guy that, again, last week 329 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, hitting 6 different receivers. They have quality at the wide receiver position, and this is a team that is now evolved into a team that is to be reckoned with in the American Athletic Conference. Now, I'll say this. The rubber hits the road. We're going to find out who's a pretender and who's a contender in the month of November, because that's where you're really going to see the strength of the AAC when they have to play UCF and also Cincinnati. But Tulane also now 25th in both polls. Homecoming for them this week, and a team against Memphis that comes in that they played really well at home, but again they've lost to when they've been on the road at Memphis. They've been the buzz in New Orleans so far.
Man. Willie Fritz, man, how about it? Just very well coached team, very well run program. Look at the players on how he recruits. You mentioned Spears from Ponchatoula. Guy is, I think without question, I think you're right, he's the best back in Louisiana. And I was watching that Houston game and thought for sure that Houston was going to get him. Pratt got knocked out early.
Right.
You know, they had to go to
Kai Horton, the third stringer.
Went way down the depth chart and was able to get that game and win it on the road. And you knew early, like, this team they're legit, man. I mean, they're a tough out.
They are.
And then the Kansas State and Oklahoma, I mean, it just, they have been so impressive in the way that it's no fluke. They beat you honestly. They beat you with a run game and defense. That travels everywhere.
Yes, it does.
Right? Like, it doesn't matter where you play, in the snow, in the sunshine, in the dome, or at Ullman, they're going to be all right because those parts of the game you can take anywhere. And with a guy like Spears and with the defense performing like you mentioned, I mean, for sure, tacklers, they fly to the football.
They really
you look around, all those beautiful uniforms in the same spot. It is easy to like Tulane. I think the national story will be behind Tulane as well.
It is now, and again, especially again, the earliest they've ever been bowl eligible in the history of the program.
Wow!
And also, as mentioned again, first time that they are ranked since the 1998 undefeated team. So it means a lot. I mean, what's going on there, and you hit on something. You know, look, they went into the transfer portal. They got a lot of guys that were New Orleans high schoolers that went elsewhere. That again maybe decided they were homesick or where they were didn't work out. Though they got those guys. Those guys are on campus now. They are paying dividends. Chris Hampton, the defensive coordinator, really looked really bad last year with a 2-win season. They kept him when they did a total revamp of the coaching staff. He has paid dividends. That defense buys into Chris Hampton, and they have the ability to be able to adjust on the fly, which tells you they're an intelligent team as well.
Absolutely. Very well coached. People that can adjust within the games, man. They show that they are a very well coached group. I've been so impressed with Willie Fritz, man, since day one.
I'm telling you.
And what he's done, I cannot believe he's got, you know, I mean, the fact that he's here is awesome.
Right.
It's incredible.
And not it's so different.
I don't mean that demeaning.
No, not at all. And I don't think anybody takes that, because in the past, Tulane coaches, younger coaches, come here, they do well, and it's a stepping stone elsewhere. The fact is that Willie Fritz is my age, right? And he's settled down. There was a lot of talk of him maybe going to, Kansas a couple years ago when Les Miles got that job. But again, he seems pretty secure here in New Orleans at Tulane, and he's building a winner. It was going to take him some time, especially with the restrictions that Tulane has on it. You know, again, it's a, the curriculum, everything that goes along with Tulane, but hopefully, again, Memphis homecoming Saturday 2:30. Wow. We're going to see a packed house at Yeoman, something that again we haven't seen a lot. Tulane deserves all of the press they're getting right now. There's no doubt.
I agree. Like we said, I think nationally an easy team to love. You know, an easy team to get behind, and Yeoman, they need to be rocking on Saturday.
It has to be. I keep hearing game day. Guys, let's see what happens in November. But you got to start showing. Again, you can't have the game day out front, and then when they go into the stadium, you have all these empty seats. They're not coming for that. Okay, they want a college atmosphere. Let's see a college atmosphere at Yeoman this weekend. This team deserves it. There's no doubt about it. Got to switch to the Pels now. 130-108 winners last night over the Nets. Jordy, I know you talk about them a lot on your program. I hear people, I read again what people are writing, and what frustrated me over the last couple of weeks is, almost downplaying the talent on this team. Yeah. Okay, that. I say it could be a 50-win team. I say they could be a top 4 seed, and I'm not worried about being on the road for most of the first 13 games of the season. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about, again, the competition either, because if you're good and you're deep, you don't worry about playing Brooklyn coming out of the box here. You don't worry about, again, having to play some of the tougher teams in your first 10 games of the season. Last night they proved it. 130-108. They outshot the Nets. They took 102 shots, wow. 50 for 102. Brooklyn was 40 for 89. Rebounds, 61-39. They dominated the paint. They had 21 offensive rebounds to Brooklyn's 9. 40 defensive rebounds to Brooklyn's 30. They had 31 assists to Brooklyn's 22. Brooklyn they only had 13 turnovers, which has been an Achilles heel of this team in the past. But 62 points in the paint, 46 for Brooklyn. 11 players played last night. Daniels got three minutes. Second chance points, 36-4. Wow. Last night. BI had 28-7 in 31 minutes. Zion had 25 and 9 in 30 minutes. CJ had 21 with 6 assists with 31 minutes. And Valanciunas 15 and 13 in 27 minutes. I think they're deep enough that they can get these guys down to 28 to 25 minutes a game and keep them from being injured and keep them healthy throughout the season. But they are talented. They are deep. They share the basketball. They play defense. Everything they thought we were going to be, you saw last night they were.
They're scary. If I'm the NBA, I'm looking at New Orleans and I'm thinking, oh, buddy, like this is going to be a tough out, man. I mean, they are. You mentioned it, and look, the biggest attribute I think they got going for them is that they're young.
Yes.
Like the 13 road games, they probably don't even recognize it. Living in a hotel for the first 2 weeks of the season. Is that what we're supposed to be doing? You know what I mean? Just as long as you get to the gym and roll the ball out, they look like they have really built this chemistry in the off season that was almost that missing ingredient. Last year was so it was so fun. It was so new. It was new faces and new names. And Brandon Ingram was breaking out, and C.J. McCollum was coming in, and Valanciunas was finding his way. And where was Zion going to fit in? And last night you could see it looked like this summer, this off season, that time that they spent out west and playing together has really kind of brought them together and built a lot of trust. And you put Zion into this dynamic and what he is, because it looks like he is finally who we thought he was going to be.
I agree.
Where he gets to the rim with Shaq-like effort, where it's like he touches. Shaq was automatic within 6 feet of the rim. If he caught it within 6 feet, they would change the scoreboard, right? He was either going to the free throw line or he was going to make it. Zion is Shaq with ball handling.
Yes.
I mean, he's got the ability to be 18, 20 feet away from the rim, and if he sees a crease, he's too big, strong, and fast. I mean, you saw it last night.
Yeah.
There were NBA players and big-time NBA players and coaches kind of just watching like, I don't know what else to do. There's nothing else that we can do defensively. There's no other way that you can guard him. If he wants to do this, he can do it all. I mean, Ben Simmons, when you don't think that his confidence can be crushed anymore.
Right.
Here's Zion on opening night. He got killed. I mean, but I think anybody that draws that task, that's going to be a tough. He is so. He's a mutant, man. He's just something that you've not seen.
Right.
It's very.
I've never heard that before, but you're right. You're right.
He's Shaq. He's Shaq that can handle the ball.
Yeah, he does. Watching Brandon Ingram go against Kevin Durant last night was a thing of beauty. When he caught fire in the third quarter and we were just going basket for basket against him. Because again, a lot of people talking about trading Brandon Ingram for Kevin Durant in the offseason. One of the things I said was no. Not because I don't believe that Kevin Durant is still one of the greatest players in the NBA. It's just because that's a younger version.
Yeah, it's 10 year ago Durant.
Okay, so that's the younger version. Trey Murphy now with his range. Okay, the guys coming off the bench, again, with the intensity, the defensive intensity. Herb Jones.
Larry Nance.
I mean,
Jackson Hayes.
come on.
Jackson Hayes was in street clothes last night. I mean, but they're
Alvarado.
so athletic and long, and they come at you in waves.
Yes.
You know, like they keep coming at. If I'm an NBA team, it's like, where is the let up?
It's
Where's
the truth.
The second team?
Right.
Where is the drop?
Well, if your second team's better than their second team consistently every night, you're going to win, especially when you have the type of talent that they have as starters. That's why, again, when I heard Willie Green say this week he was going to go 10 deep, he may go a little deeper again. Now, he went 11 last night, and Daniels, the rookie, got 3 minutes. But we saw, again, pretty much what he's got. Jackson Hayes will be part of that when he comes back from injury. But they have the ability to play 10 to 11 players a night. And as I mentioned, if you can get those minutes down on Brandon Ingram and Valanciunas and C.J. McCollum and Zion, where they're playing 25 to 27 minutes a night, that's going to help you down the line when you're playing 82 games and in the playoffs.
Absolutely. David Griffin deserves a lot of credit.
A tremendous amount of credit.
Who was beleaguered as much as he was.
He made some mistakes.
He did.
But he made up for them.
He absolutely did. An incredible star turn for Griffin.
No doubt.
Is somebody who I thought would be maybe packing his bags at this point, or by this point. Has totally changed the dynamic in the field. Think about where they were 365 days ago. Yeah. I mean, this was right around the time we were still talking about that weird and awkward press conference that him and Zion had. I mean, it was like, what's going on with Zion? Nobody's communicating. What's happening here? You know. And now to see the way that they are built, to see the way that they are bought in, to see and feel, you can feel it around the league. I mean, even Charles Barkley, did you see the other night on TNT? They were like, you want to take that back? He was like, hell no, I'm not taking it back. I'm standing by it. He's got New Orleans coming out of the West.
Willie Green's the difference. Yeah. That was the elixir there that really kind of changed things. Look, I'll give him credit. He gave up some of those first-round picks, at least we thought he was. No, what he did was he made them in such a way that, again, they ended up being protected and then ended up what looked like bad deals, he made into good deals. And so they still have the majority of their picks for the future here. Now, this is a team that I think, again, if they can stay healthy, has the ability to be able to, again, to be in the top four. If you be in the top four in the West, that means you get home court advantage. That means you got a shot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like we said, I mean, Golden State looks in a league of their own.
Yep,
right?
Always.
But I watched a lot of basketball last night, or at least highlights of a lot of basketball. I look around the West, and I see good teams.
Yes.
I don't see anybody that looked like New Orleans did last night.
No.
You know, Memphis looked good.
Right.
Utah looked pretty good. You know, I mean, they're still, if I'm New Orleans, they don't strike fear to me. No. Golden State, I get.
Yes.
You know, I get. But even the Lakers. You know what I mean? Like watching them play.
Old.
They get 3 players?
Right.
Sweet.
Right.
You know, New Orleans got 11.
Right.
You know what I mean? And 11 that can play.
Right. And play defense and share the basketball. You know, one of the things that Willie Green said last night was we shots, okay? He talked about, again, from paint to greatness. So, again, you know, pushing the narrative of we got to rebound, we got to play defense, we got to share the basketball. That's winning basketball.
It's chemistry. It was so clear last night that that team likes each other.
Yes.
If I watch the Lakers play, I'm saying they got a bunch of outcasts.
Right.
You know what I mean? You watch the Pelicans play, it almost looks like a high school team.
It does.
It feels like a young, energetic, youthful team that you go and watch play and you're like, oh, wow, this is going to be a tough matchup for anybody.
They blew out a team last night that has 2 guys that are going to be in the Hall of Fame.
It looked like they kind of broke their will.
Right.
Like at certain point. I mean, Durant looked great. 32 minutes, 32 points.
Come on. Yeah.
Kyrie looked great. He looked fantastic. Claxton looked really good for them. But outside of that, I mean, they looked almost broke.
Now, they didn't have Harris, didn't have Seth Curry last night. That means something. But, again, it is what it is. Got 30 seconds. Tell us about your show.
At Culotta Show on social media. Easiest place to find us. We're on YouTube daily, 7 to 9 a.m. We have embraced the digital movement of media. We're on all digital properties. As long as you have a phone, you can find us. Just search at Culotta Show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere.
Thank you, Jordy.
Always.
Jordy Culotta, again, with us here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Don't forget, plenty of ways to catch us. There's a QR code that's up on your TV right now. Take you right to my website or WLAE-TV YouTube page. So plenty of ways to catch us with our great rebroadcast. Find one, set the DVR, and make sure you check us out each and every week. You catch me on the radio, 106.1 FM. That's weekdays 4 to 6. Again, you can listen live at ericasher.com. Also, the 106.1 website. website. Anchor is our home base for our podcast. But again, we're on all podcasting platforms. And as always, we appreciate you guys checking out the program. Also, don't forget about our underwriters. Please support the underwriters, support our program. And special thanks to the production staff here at WLAE-TV, Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Logan Rafia, Alex Chacon, and William Hill, our director. For Jordy Culotta, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.